Welcome to Voices from the Field podcast presented by Extra Innings Softball, where the stories are real, the conversations are honest, and the game goes way beyond the field. We're bringing you insight, inspiration, and all things softball from the people shaping the sport.
Welcome back, Extra Innings Softball family, to another fabulous Voices of the Field podcast. I am in with what I would consider, and it might embarrass him a little bit, but a legend within the sport of softball. And I even learned more prior to our recording that just makes me want to sit and talk shop, maybe with a good old espresso on a couch and just talk all things softball. This is Mike Stith. Everybody knows Mike Stith. He owns and operates the Batbusters. It's a legendary organization. It's been around for as long as I can remember. But Mike took over and took the reins in 2013. I think one of the biggest compliments I can give him is from an outsider looking in and just knowing some of the people have gone through the program and looking at all programs from being a college coach to now a mom of a kid is the culture that he's built within his program. Really, really very much always appears as a family. And I think that speaks volumes to what you do. I think, I don't think I asked, but I'm going to ask, how many national championships have you all won?
Well, as a head coach, I've won 9.
Wow.
And then I won, I'm one of the few that have won a youth, and I won an MPF. I won the Coles Cup one year with the Pride.
All right.
As an assistant coach, I've won 6 more. So we've, about half of the time we have had a national championship at the end of the year. It's been a lot of fun, but we've been able to deal with a lot of good people.
We're even more connected than I knew because I actually coached the Washington Glory in 2007 and 2008. That became the Pride. So that's really cool. You know, I always said, I'm more impressed with your travel championships than I am the MPF because I always say in the MPF, it's only ours as coaches or managers to screw up because there's so much talent. It's more like managing egos and making sure that you keep everybody kind of like a well-oiled engine. And I know that you have coached 6 players that just played on the USA team with Patty Gasso and JT that brought home the gold medal in preparation for the 28 Olympics. That speaks volumes as well. And I'll let you give all those different things. And then I believe, and I'm not sure if I'm mistaken in the bragging parts for you, is Amanda Lorenz was just crowned the first queen of the home runs. I saw her on social media holding her little medal. And that really is part of your first group with Lorenz and Shipman and the rest of them that really kind of kicked it off. Mike had sisters who played at Fullerton. He's had daughters who played at Nevada Reno. So I would have to say that whether you liked it or not, softball was in your blood from day one with everything that was going. Maybe it chose you more than you chose it. But welcome, Mike, to the show. And I'm so excited to talk the history of the Batbusters, talk about your why and your passion, talk about your new expansion in a fabulous location of the country, and then just kind of let people get to know you. And obviously, I'm going to end with some great recruiting nuggets from you for that class of 27, possibly 28, because Lord knows if you have any insight to give these poor people in the recruiting process, I'm always looking for it because I just went through it. I was on the other side doing it, but it feels like every night I go to sleep, I got to get up and read the new rules and rank in the NC2A recruiting process. So I'd love to do that. So tell me a little bit, first of all, welcome. And then tell me a little bit about the history of the Batbusters. Take us back of basically how it started, where it went, how you're growing, talk about your facility, where you're located, and tell us all about it.
Well, and thanks for having me on, and I appreciate this. And some of the a lot of the history I can't be too exact on. Gary Henning took over the Batbusters from Joe Grubbs back in the mid '80s, I believe, and really expanded the program and made it what it was. Its national prominence from the likes of Jenny Finch, and he had obviously some great talent and a lot of depth. And you had spoken that you were at Fresno, and some of his best players played at Fresno State. But Gary was interesting and built such a culture here. And I was fortunate enough to start coaching with Gary on the Batbusters. I had my own Tough Enough teams back in the '90s. And we were very successful. We did well, and back in 2000, Gary and I we actually played against each other, and worked together. And, through different various things, parents, sometimes there's a lot of crazy things that go on. We ended up not getting together. He called me, and we started coaching in the fall um, of 2003. It's when I started coaching with Gary, and I coached with him for about 7 years.
Okay.
And in 2010, I told Gary that it was time for me to just be a head coach again. I wanted to start my own team. So I started a 14U team. And on that team was Sydney Romero, Amanda Lorenz, Alyssa Palomino, Morgan Flores, Taylor McQuillan. Somebody will yell because you forgot that, I mean, but, Folly Avu and some of these players that were on that team, Janelle Wheaton, who had a great career at Florida, all these players, um, I can honestly say I wouldn't have been able to start and do what I did if it wasn't for them. They were so good and so determined and so driven that when I had those kids together, they started in when they played for Craig Snow, a lot of them in 12 and under, and I brought them up into 14s, and they were ready to advance right away. And we started working together. We started growing this team together. We got beat when they were in 8th grade. We got beat. Well, I immediately took them to 16 and under. And at that point, we actually stepped away from the Batbusters. We formed Team Mizuno for a couple of years because it was just going to be a conflict with Gary at the 18s as my team was getting older. So we started Team Mizuno. We did that for 3 seasons. And in those 3 seasons, Mark Campbell and I, we won. I think we had like 4 national championships in those 3 seasons between his team and my team, and we did really, really well. And Gary reached back out to Mark in 2013, and we put everybody back together. And we have grown the Batbusters from, back. I think Gary usually had 3, maybe 4 teams. I know Doug Myers was always successful at the 16s. Steve McNee was in the 14s. Tyrone was in the 18s as well, and that was the limit basically of what it was. There was other teams that would come and go here and there, but it was basically just a handful of teams. Well, we have grown it to. I didn't get crazy, and we're at about 100 teams right now. There's about 38, 40 teams in Southern California, and I spend a lot of time with a handful of them. But it was the original group that somebody has to set the bar. And to this day, I mean, I'm talking about Amanda, and here she is in Japan winning a gold medal. These people were so driven, and it was such a blessing to, like, it was a confluence of people when the right people mixed at the right time, and something special grew, and it really changed the direction of the Batbusters, and we grew from there. Mark and I bought the Batbusters from Gary in the fall of 2013 into the winter, and one of the proudest moments I ever had was it was Gary wanted to make sure that the Batbusters stayed good, and our first year together was 2014, and we won the national championship. And I remember shaking his hand. I said, "We're good. We'll be fine." And and it made him feel good because he had set the precedent so high for the group that we have continued that, and it was quite a pleasure. But it's the people that set the bar so high
Yes.
that made all this possible.
It's so cool to sit there because I was going to say, hey, so tell us about some of the names and the names that you just dropped right there. If you don't know those names, then you really haven't been involved in softball very much, because from the players to the coaches and everybody that you talked about, our CEO Bonnie was actually lives in Idaho, so she's definitely very kin to that area. And I now have learned that you've bought a house up in that area as well. So that's our Region 5 at Extra Innings Softball. And there's kind of a little surprise out there that maybe not everybody in the country knows, but the Batbusters are expanding into Idaho. And I couldn't be more tickled because, I a long time ago left that California area and came back to the South, kind of going through the same thing as you did before. It was really before even SEC softball was a big thing at that point in time. So softball was so new. So tell me, like, what motivated you other than just moving there? What motivates you to bring the Batbusters to that area that Bonnie covered the tryouts with?
Well, Carrie, everything that I have been able to do is a complete blessing. It's not, it takes hard work to maintain it and to build and do what we need to do. But here again, I go back to the very beginning of, this group that was blessed to me at one time set the bar so high, and I've been able to experience some incredible things because of that. And my time in Southern California, um, and I'm still obviously going to run my team. I'm still going to coach the Orange County Batbusters. But when I moved up here, there was the Crossfire organization was up here, and they have done great. For where they're at. David Dwyer has built this program, and they're making an impact. They've been in the Super Cup, they've been in Alliance, they've been competing, and they're doing well. However, when I moved up here, I just felt that I'll put it this way. I wanted to open up my heart, my mind to what I know. I'm not here to tell them what to do, but I will show them a good idea. This works. This can work this way. And there has to be structure, and there has to be a foundation that all the teams are going to build off of. And there has to be a focus at the end of the day. And so that was my main goal in coming up here. I'm not up here to step on anybody's toes. I'm not up here because I've done that. I've been able to do this. I've been able to win and do all the things. Now it's time to grow another area. And the people up here are so open and they're so wonderful. And, you had made the comment when you first went to Mississippi, they don't know what they don't know. And so people will push back. Well, they're making us do this. They're making us buy your uniforms, and they're making us buy. Well, it's because in order for me to structure this, I've got to be able to support it. And this blessing will work for them tenfold when this is all said and done. And that's my goal up here. I'm not up here to step. I've told nobody I'm not going to coach a team up here. I will not do that. I will only advise the coaches, and I will help the players where I can. There's a wonderful structure that's already in place here, but now we need to grow it to get it prepared for national play and win at a national level. And, your daughter's going to Arkansas. I want some of these kids to be able to be watched by Courtney and Matt. Next thing I know, I'm going to have DJ Gasso up here in Idaho watching kids, because he knows the Gassos know where to get good players. And so this stuff is going to play out. And that's what I hope to expose to all these kids up here.
I think that's such a blessing. And, I'll be so excited. People will say, well, down the road, I'd be willing to say in the next year or two to start watching it. It's something that I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on. And I was going to sit here and ask you your why and your passion, but you just so beautifully demonstrated what that is. And I think the neatest thing I heard come out of your mouth is that everything that you've done has been a blessing, and then the bar that has been set by others. It's such words of wisdom for young coaches coming forward, is like, build yourself and surround yourself with great people, and you will raise to levels that you would never know. And once you start to raise, then you can reach down and pull one or two up at a time, but you've got to surround yourself with great people. And that's what builds such a good culture. And I think that's fantastic. So, all right, here we go. The big nemesis questions in recruiting and NIL and portal and all that kind of stuff. The first biggest thing that I would love to hear from somebody like yourself, who's been there through all the crazy changes, from back to when you could recruit kids in pull-ups and get them committed before they even completed the 5th grade, to, not being able to talk to them till their senior summer. I look at the way the recruiting thing has changed over the years, and I keep going, I wonder when we're ever going to get it right, or if there really is a right, and obviously now that there's money to be had and all that stuff, it changes things. It makes it more of a business than it's ever been before. But if you are looking, and let's just start with this, talking to the class of 2027, obviously everybody gets all wound up for September 1st. I have my opinions about September 1st. I'd love to hear yours. What would be some golden nuggets that you could give to the players, and then even maybe hit the parents? Because I think a lot of times the parents, unless they play for an organization like your own, are kind of in the dark a lot of times of what to expect, how to expect it, what to support, what not to, how to draw boundaries, all that good stuff. So what's all your golden nuggets for the 27s?
This is far simpler than we all make it out to be, much like softball in general. It's far simpler than we make it out to be. Listen, everybody in life, when they work towards something, they know that they're putting in the time, and their feel of getting better. They know what they're doing is working. And the people that are not putting in the time, it's like you have that ghost that wakes you up at night and telling you you're not doing what you need to be doing. You're not what you need to be doing. You're like pitchers. You got a flaw. You cannot spot your changeup. You cannot throw, and you're not working as hard as you possibly can and putting your heart into everything to be as good as you can. Well,
Absolutely.
the fruits of those issues come out to play on September 1st. The game knows what you have done. The game knows what you have. People, I go to games, and when there's college coaches out watching games, I'll watch people come up and try to, our 28 shortstop, she's really good. You need to watch. Like, they're selling kids. And I'm thinking, do you think they're idiots? They can watch. They're watching the kid. They know, like, September 1st is just a marker for people to be acknowledged and recognized for the work that they have done, good or bad. You want more phone calls? Hit the ball over the
Amen.
fence. You want more phone calls? Throw no hitters at nationals. You want more phone calls? Field every ground ball hit to you. Make plays. Dive for balls in the outfield. Throw runners out. Assist. Make great plays. And the rewards will be coming to you, whether it's September 1st or when we start getting official visits and all that kind of stuff. Look in the mirror.
Absolutely.
It's not a joke. It's very simple. You want phone calls on September 1st? Do your job. Do your job, and it'll take care of itself.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's funny that you say that, because we have a little ambassador group that I kind of run here at Extra Inning. It's, free to them. If they subscribe, they get it. We meet once a month, and some of the questions that they ask, and I'm like, look, first and foremost, you have to know the pond that you're able to swim in, because you can work as hard as you absolutely want. And just because your dream school is Alabama or Arkansas, you can go, and if you fairly evaluate yourself, whether you're capable of playing at that
100%.
level. Now, mom, dad, and grandma might have different ideas. And in the South, it's a little different, because I'm not even sure it's a school you want to go play. It's more like a cult, and it's like been written in the wills down the road that you got to play for certain. But there's so many levels to play at. And the bottom line is, no matter whether it's a Power 4 or a mid-major or D2, D3 or JUCO, if you want to play, you can play at the next level.
Yes.
I can't say which level you're going to play at, but it all comes down to one thing. It's hard work. And I love what you say, because I just literally said this to a kid that I was giving lessons to yesterday. I'm like, the game knows. Like, you don't have to try to justify to me why you're not hitting this pitch and why you look exactly the same to me in your swing as you did from last week, because the bottom line is you haven't worked. Because it might not have been fixed, but something would have been different had you been out there hitting till your hands bleed. Like, there is no substitute for that. And everybody wants to be able to take a magic pill and lose 20 pounds, but that's just not the way it works. You just put 40 pounds on when you take that pill later. You're not fixing what it needs to be. I love to hear that.
Our world is built on people lying to themselves when in fact you want to do something, work your ass off and win, and you'll get it. And it may not happen today or tomorrow, it may happen down the road, but life will find you in whatever you decide to do.
Absolutely. The game knows. I love that. Life knows as well. So let me ask you this. What would be the biggest piece of advice? And I want this to go more towards younger parents, like kids that are just getting their kids involved in it, that 12U, 10U. Like, what would be your best piece of advice to those parents, whether it's what programs how to go about picking a team? What would you say to your daughters picking for a 10U or a 12U team? Like, this is where you want to go.
Coaching. Don't get romanced with somebody's uniforms or the fact they get into this tournament. They get to go here. Well, none of that means anything if you're not being coached. A lot of people have access to some of these tournaments, and if you can't coach, you can't coach. You need to watch the depth of instruction from these coaches. You need to be able to pay attention to, are they truly teaching the kids, or are they just running a game? I'll tell you, if you go on a team and you're playing every weekend, that means your coaches can't coach. Coaches that can coach practice more, because they take the time to instill the fundamentals into their team. Because when it comes down to this, and you can watch, the most basic things. I watched Japan and USA play 4 innings of international tie, 4 or 5 innings of international tiebreaker, and the team that didn't fundamentally execute lost the game. They lost the game, and it's no different than a 10 and under game. So it's a simple game, but you watch a team for the coaching, the execution, and how that coach can manage a group of girls, not whether they're going to go, we're in the IDT in Colorado. Well, if you go 0-6, it doesn't matter what tournament you play in. But pay attention to the coaching and the people that are leading the team.
Absolutely. I miss the days of Colorado when there wasn't 2,000 teams out there. I can promise you that much. Like, I was so excited that my daughter was playing for Jackson's 18U team and we were going back to Boulder, I'm like, oh, that's my old home stomping grounds. Like, I
Yep.
so much prefer that than the Aurora, the Westminster, all that good stuff going on out there. All right. Well, you've been around the game for a long time, so you've seen it evolve, and some can say good, bad, ugly. What has been maybe some of the biggest changes that you've noticed over the last, say, 10 years of the game?
Hmm. Um, the hitters are better. The hitters are stronger. Years and years, the only people that did private instruction were pitchers. Now the hitters are. The hitters are in the weight room. The game has changed. It's a game of power. It's a game of strength. Um, I unfortunately think that people have bypassed the short game, the slapping game, moving runners and doing that kind of stuff. And I just watched Japan hit 4 ground balls against USA and score 4 runs. And these are things that are lost in the power game, unfortunately. But hitters have um, studied more, become much more prevalent in their knowledge of the pitch, what the pitches are doing. And so that part has gotten a lot better. You talked about the idea. We go to Colorado and the 200-foot fences, those are like foul, those are pop-ups balls. And it's like,
Next swings are going over the fence.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, a 200-foot fence at our level is like T-ball, but they the game has changed to that level, and I think that that's the biggest piece that has made it such a different dynamic. The game's more exciting. Everybody likes home runs. Everybody likes the ball being
Absolutely.
hit hard, but the pitching dominance has been weakened, and I think I have theories. I think that moving the 14 and under back to 43 feet several years back was probably one of the worst things they could have ever done, because you no longer teach power. People don't teach power pitching anymore. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think that there's a lot of down. I think that has led to a lot of arm issues and things. But
I
um,
agree.
I think that and like you said, good, bad, or indifferent, they're all just changes. They're all things that are eventually we're making the changes because we want the product to improve for the national level at college. So there's a lot of great things that have happened there. But the game has gotten stronger. It's gotten a lot stronger.
Absolutely.
And we can
The
talk
girls
about
have
the
gotten stronger and bigger. Like, I used to be a fairly decent size, and now I'm like, "Hey, you gotta get on your knees so I can talk to you." I keep saying,
it's
the volleyball players and basketball players need to go back to their own sports is what I keep saying. The softball people that has little ground climb snatchers, so,
well,
absolutely. Yeah.
the those things that mattered then. The short game will never go away from our sport, for those that are good. Speed will never change, but nonetheless, power, it has become a powerful game.
I think the beauty of the power that I think more than anything, you can take it right to the college women's world, the college World Series this year when Tennessee had Oklahoma on the down on the brinks. I mean, they were bleeding to death, and
Till Ella came up.
one swing, and I won money. I won't tell you how much because I'm probably not supposed to bet on sports, but my dad was sitting there and I'm like, what are you doing throwing to her? Don't throw to her. Put her on. Put her on. Put her. Make the girl behind her beat you. And my dad's like, no, I'm like, I'm telling you, she's going yard. And he's like, whatever. Next pitch, he goes, oh my God. Well, before that happened, I said $50. She goes yards and changes this game. He's like, there's no way. I'm like, okay, bet.
And Carrie, what's interesting is, so obviously Ella Parker is just a professional. She when she came, yeah, I was kind of surprised they threw to her, um, but who's behind her? I mean, there's just so many
Oh, yeah.
dynamics
Well,
that
I mean,
come.
you don't know if it's going to work, but I would have taken my chances with the one behind her.
Well, um, my whole thing when I was thinking, I got, unfortunately I was there for that game and I watched it, and I can't tell you the inner satisfaction there is, knowing that one of your kids, the feeling that had to go through her mind, and
Oh,
when that ball was going over the fence, it's just something that, because I've known her since she was a child,
yeah.
and to watch that, and just the feeling I had was such, it wasn't that, okay, Oklahoma won in the walk-off. I wasn't worried about that. I was thinking, how is Ella's heart rate going right now, man? The
Right
feeling that
now.
she just had, and
How's she keeping her heart in her chest?
and those are the kind of things that when you watch these games and these kids, they're just so rewarding. It's so cool.
That's so cool. All right, let's talk real quick college level. Let's talk NIL, portal, Power Fours. Obviously, the game has changed probably now and forever in certain ways. Talk about the goods and the bads that you see in that for that level, but then even the trickle down effect as it goes.
Well, Obviously I'm an older guy, so I think that disciplining and grinding your team and trying to get them to achieve what they're capable of, not what they think they can do, but what they are capable of doing, are two different
Yep.
things. And the lure of an NIL or the lure of the transfer portal um, absolutely decapitates coaches from pushing kids as hard as they can. Most people in our world are not willing to make the greatest sacrifices to be as good as they can. They're not. And when you give them an out all the time, they're gonna eject. They're gonna take that out. And the
Yeah.
portal has allowed people to no longer develop. You can't bring in a kid as a freshman and see her weak spots and develop her. And nor will the freshman come in who doesn't get to play as much think there's an opportunity. I got to get better in order to be. I got to win that position. They don't do that anymore. And I think that we're cheating the players. I think that we are. I think it's an insult to their ability to improve as human beings and players. I think it's an insult to coaches that are you're taking away some of their greatest gifts, and that's teaching and coaching and developing adults, not just playing a softball game. But that's the system. Good, bad, or
Yeah.
indifferent, that's
I
what it is. And
absolutely
so
believe
we have
that.
to adapt to
And
it.
yeah. Well, not to get political, but I always compare the portal to a lot like the welfare system. It was all created for the right reasons, and it's just been used and abused at this point in time to where, the welfare system was to give a hand up to a poor family that couldn't get on their feet. But then once you get on your feet, you get going, and then it becomes a way of life. And I agree with you the same way with the portal, that I think the portal, you can go back and say, well, it was it was put out there maybe for the right reasons to start with, that coaches couldn't like lock in a player that was never going to fit into their program just so they couldn't play for another program. They had to do those things and not make it where it was locked in. And there's are some perfect portal stories that you hear and go, that's the right reason, where the kid that was leaving the program after their third or fourth year because they graduated and they had a year left, that those coaches are helping those kids go on. I think those portal things were developed for the right reason, but it's really hard for me to be all about a team, because you almost have to be about individual players, because you never know who's going to be on the team or the roster the next year, like you said. So I guess my advice to a lot of recruits and parents is really look at the schools that you're looking at, because there are some schools that, without even mentioning them, that you can say they're portal you. They're going to the portal all the time, which to me makes them almost more like junior colleges. You've got them for a year or two before they're moving on. Not judging them, it's working for some people and all that kind of stuff. But as a mother of a daughter, I'm like, you look at the programs that take the kids and develop them and work hard and know. I told my daughter, like, look, when you go somewhere, you're staying there. Like, you are staying there. Now, I guess if my daughter came home and said, I want to be a marine biologist, the University of Arkansas is not going to fulfill that. And softball is going to come to an end at some point. I don't think Beaver Lake is going to qualify her for a marine biologist. So there are things that kids, like those kind of stories might come, but those are so few and far between. Like, I might get in and gut it out. Like, I don't want to hear anything about playing time, or you're not, that you choose this like you're choosing your spouse. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you leave because mama and daddy ain't involved.
Well, it's just
So I think that would be that.
if you don't like the situation you're in, do everything in your power to change it. That's what
Yes.
self-satisfaction is, gratification at the end of the day, when you make a difference by changing yourself or help change others to make the program better. That's the greatest gift a coach can give to an athlete. And I think that that's all missed. But nonetheless, I can tell you, I've had a lot of kids go in the portal. I've helped a lot of kids move, and I don't get attached to the school. My job is to help the player, and if they want to move, there's many I have tried to convince not to move. I think that it's bad, and the days of having your diploma and pictures from your college teammates and your all the things that you do in college, I just think that we're cheating these people. We're not allowing them to grow on their universities and make that part of their family heritage. It's just, and we're talking about softball. When you're
Yeah.
done at college, you're done. Like there's
Yes.
very less than a 0.5% of players are going to play beyond it, and we're putting such a value on the things that are meaningless at the end of the day, and it's disappointing. But nonetheless, that's the system we deal with. And so my job is to help the players fulfill their career, fulfill their commitments in college, and do what they need to do. But I'm not happy with it, but we deal with it. My
Yeah.
problem is now is this it's pervade down into the younger age groups to where these kids are thinking, well, if I go there, I can just do a year and I can transfer. Well, like, is that why you're doing this? Because you're
Exactly.
missing the point of all this stuff. But
Absolutely. I agree.
the system will self-correct after a period of time, and hopefully the athletes are not damaged beyond this. But I think that we're cheating all of them by not making them grind it out a little bit better.
I definitely think that's a great thing. Well, let's go on to something a little bit happier and more fulfilling. And let's just kind of get to know Mike. Some of these questions you can say pass because I'm not sure you'll be able to answer them. But if you could coach one player, past or present, who would it be? Because I
Oh
know
shit!
it's hard.
If I see, this is a trick question, because if I say um, Amanda, or if I say I coached a woman on the Pride, Kirsty Merritt, who I really loved coaching. She was incredible. Um, and I can play it safe because on the Pride everybody was good.
Yeah,
But she was just very intriguing as a player. I enjoyed all of them.
I
Sierra
figured as
Romero was such a tough-minded player, and her sister was very tough-minded. But I got to tell you, there's three, and obviously they were in Japan. Amanda and Tiari and Maya were, and what's funny, they, like, I still communicate with them all the time. They
mhm.
call, they have questions, concerns. They all three went to different universities. They all three had different experiences, and they all three loved where they went, and they all three succeeded beyond belief. And th're all three very different people. But what they all are is whole people. They are very wonderfully satisfied in their lives. They are who they are. One of them's married, and the other two, one's engaged, and the other one I know has a boyfriend. They're just, their lives are fulfilled, and it makes it easy. Like as soon as they leave Japan with a gold medal, I can talk to them, and because it's not that, like, it's softball, it doesn't define them. And so we
Yeah,
go back to, who would you want to coach? Um, they're special people,
that's really
um,
cool.
and I had other, like, I got Abby Dayton, who was just a grinder. She's at Oklahoma now. Ilana Agbayani's at Oklahoma. These kids, they're just great kids. And I don't, when you do these things, I don't ever not want to say anybody's name, because they're all wonderful. But
Yes,
these are just
absolutely.
people that, like, I can't help. I mean, I got accused for years. Well, Amanda Lorenz is your favorite. Duh, like,
Well, at least you can say you've got good taste, right?
I got accused. Well, Kai Miner never came out of your lineup this year. Okay. Like, I just, people, like, here again, I go back to what I said earlier. This is not that difficult. Like, this is kind of simple. Just look at it for what it is. Kind of simple. But
Yeah,
those are wonderful people. And other people that I was intrigued. Megan pitched for Marty and went to UCLA. I really liked her and her family. I would have liked to have coached her at some point. She's a wonderful talent, wonderful people. There's a lot of players that I played against that in some of these teams that were really tough-minded kids that I
yeah.
really enjoyed watching.
Yeah.
J-
Well, what's really
Um,
cool is it sounds like the ones that you really close your eyes and think about are the ones who you did coach that have gone on, but that became family
yep,
because they do become family. So you've got a lot more
100%.
than just two biological daughters. You've adopted quite a few. And I think no one could accuse you of bad taste for sure. Is there a special championship game or a moment in your career that's just one that when you're sitting there just kind of makes your lips go up and smile?
There's a lot of them. I remember when we were facing Marty in the national championship game, and it was 0-0, like in the fourth or fifth inning, and Rachel Garcia is facing Taylor McQuillan, so it was a pretty good game, and who somebody gets, oh, of course, Amanda Lorenz leads the inning off of the hit, and Gary calls time, and he goes, Mike, somebody's got to get a bunt down, and I go, Folly was a sub on my team at that point, and Rachel at that time was just phenomenal, and she's sitting there throwing 70-mile-an-hour rise balls at us, and Folly comes up and bunts a ball above her head and bunts it on the ground, and then the next pitch, the next batter, we get a base hit, and we go up 1-0, and then we ended up winning the game. But some of these moments, that was kind of like a special time, because at that moment, that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
When we won the national championship in 2022, I had such a committed group. Many of the girls on my team had been with me and us in our program since they were 10 years old. They went from playing with Tony Mascarenas, and they played for Mark Campbell, and then they played for me. And there was such a bond because I've known these kids since they were 10. Alexis Ramirez, and I mentioned Abby Dayton and Carly Davidson and Ilana and Jossie Erickson, all these people that were on this team. And Kai Minor was a freshman. Taylor Shoemaker was on that team. All these players were a part of our family. And we go to play. We played the national championship at Purdue, and it was the most incredible day of my life. The sky was so clear. We drove across, the cornfields to get to Purdue, where it's out in the middle of the country. And it was just a beautiful setting. And it was just one of those special times in your life that you'll never forget. And Ryan Maddox was just tough as nails. And we won. And but that day was just something about that day. It was just special. I'll never forget that day. It was unique.
Well, you just answered like the last 2 or 3 questions that I had all in that. What a great walk down memory lane. Mike, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to get to speak to you face to face and get to let people know who you are and your thoughts behind the game, because obviously you've seen the game change. You've watched it, good, bad, and the ugly, or indifferent, however you want to say it. But you've coached so many legends. And I think that comes to me that I would love to share with all the young coaches out there is you started somewhere and you allowed the greats around you to mold you as a coach. And what I hear in everything that you're talking about is you're a constant learner of the game. And that's the thing that I always tell all these young coaches is no one has ever mastered this game, not the best of the best. And the more you study, the more things you can come up with. And I think of like the slapping game. I mean, instantaneously go, Larry Ray revolutionized the sport. And I would ask probably 20 young slappers right now, and they've never known a game without slapping in it. So I'm like, there's so many ways. And I continue to challenge young coaches and players, like, study the game and find something new, because it hasn't been mastered.
Well,
And
Carrie,
since it hasn't been mastered, there's something there to figure out.
do they ever watch Arizona? Reagan Shockey just drives people crazy. Reagan Shockey is one of the most intellectually sound slappers I've ever dealt with. And she watches, she knows, and of course she's playing at Tucson. It's built for that. But the slapping is a complete part of our game. And
Absolutely.
It's absolutely, and it's a forgotten part of the game.
Absolutely. I just did a podcast with Mike Condrea last week, and I was laughing at him because, he had basically went to Arizona when I was at Fresno, and they had never beat us, even when I was pitching, and I'd be playing third, and he'd always be talking to me. I'd always be getting in trouble, and we'd be laughing. And I can remember, I said, "Do you remember the only time you beat me, coach?" And he was like, "No." I said, "Well, I do." And he's like, "Why?" And I said, "Because it still chaps my rear end." And he's like, "Why?" I said, "I had a no-hitter going in the 7th inning. It was still 0-0, and you guys scored a run with 3 balls that never went more than 4 foot from home plate." I said, "If I could have taken the bat and like kneecapped your kids, I would have." I'm like, they didn't beat me with skill. They beat me with mishits." And he started laughing. So I love that part of the game, and I loved it. And I told him, because like I watched, to me, what I thought in his career, him evolutionize himself as a coach. Because when I was first there, he transitioned nothing but slappers. 1 through 9 was lefty slappers. They ran what felt like a 1-2 from home to first, and they never felt like they beat you like with skill. They beat you with speed, which is still skill. So don't get me wrong. That was back when I was a player. But then all of a sudden, when I'm out and I'm watching his team's transition, I'm like, dang, he's got all corn-fed girls. Now they're hitting 7,000 home runs. Where's his speed? And then it was like literally that next decade where I'm like, and then you finally figured it out. You did both. Like you had those table setters in there, mastermind behind. I said, and that's when you went on your 9 championships and no one could touch you. And he was like, "You gave all my secrets away. That's why I'm out now," So it was so cool to do that. But I cannot tell you what a pleasure it's been meeting with you today. I wish you nothing but luck. I am going to make you vow to come back on in a year or so from now so that we can talk all things Idaho to see how far they've come along in that region. You've got young coaches, or if you've got players or anything, we're at Extra Inning trying to build just a wealth of knowledge for people, not be all things ranking. I want it to be a parent hub. I want it to be for little Susie Susie's dad that's a lawyer, and she comes screaming in saying, I want to be like Amanda Lorenz. And he goes, oh, what are we talking about? That he can go to a site, listen to people like yourself, have parents know where they can figure out the best fundraising, because Lord knows that I will never be able to retire. I have decided I will, that I did tell my daughter she can never put me in a nursing home with all the investment that I put into her with softball. So thank you so much, Mike. I wish you the best of
My
luck, and
pleasure.
I'm eager to keep up with you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Voices from the Field, presented by Extra Innings Softball. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on Spotify, and visit our website at extrainningssoftball.com for more stories, rankings, and updates from around the game. We'll see you guys next week.